Okay, our next section here, we're beginning a new lesson of imperialism in Latin America. And before we get into really what turns out to be mostly US imperialism in Latin America, um, I want to take a step back and look in our rearview mirror for a second and try and remember a bit about what was going on in Latin America at this point. Remember, Latin America was taken over by the Spanish and the Portuguese in the 1500s, the late 1400s, right? This area had been New Spain, was under Spanish control for centuries. In the early 1800s, most Latin American countries pushed the Spanish out. They pushed the Portuguese out, and they started setting up their own governments. In 1823, the US president, seeing what was happening in Latin America, decided that, and it was President James Monroe, he decided that he was going to issue a doctrine which stated that no European countries could involve themselves in Latin American business without basically picking a fight with the United States. And this kept European countries, really the English and the French, from coming in and taking over there under the threat that we don't want to have to fight the United States. That this is a more powerful country than just going in and taking over one of these Latin American countries would have been. During moving forward from this point, Great Britain became a leader in trade in Latin America. And the United States also tried to open up some trade with Latin America, but really Great Britain was the leading country at this point. And the truth is that no European countries tried to take over any Latin American countries from 1823 to the period that we're going to pick up around 1900, except for during the American Civil War. And this, of course, is famously where the French tried to take over Mexico. Well, they do actually take over Mexico for a short period of time because the US is busy fighting ourselves. And we couldn't help out Mexico at that case. Now, this is also where the famous story of Cinco de Mayo comes into play, where the Mexican army defeats the more powerful French army in an early battle. But anyways, we're not going to get into that whole story today. We're going to get back to where we're picking up. And where we're picking up is 1898. The US goes to war with Spain. Spain did still control Cuba. If you remember, Cuba was like the main Spanish base before Mexico became the main Spanish base and maintained and was a very important Spanish colony. Even after most Latin American countries rebelled, the Spanish still had such a strong grip over Cuba that there was no rebellion. In 1898, the US goes to war with Spain. And as a result of that war, the United States takes Cuba, Puerto Rico, the Philippines, and Guam, as mentioned earlier in our studies. We're going to learn that the US gives Cuba back to the Cubans at some point, gives Philippines back to the Filipinos at some point, and the United States still holds on to Puerto Rico and Guam as colonies. Well, was that it? Was that the only time the US tried to get involved in Latin America and then the US was like, cool, you guys do your thing? No, is the correct answer. In 1903, the US supported or maybe encouraged the formation of the country of Panama. Now look, Panama was part of Colombia, okay? And in this time, Panama breaks away from Colombia with the help of US military and forms their own country. Immediately thereafter, the US starts building a canal in Panama. And here's why. If you take a look here at this map, you'll see that US ships used to have to go all the way around South America to get to the west coast. The US, California, and the West Coast was becoming more important. And they decided it would be great if they could copy the Suez Canal that existed in Egypt and could cut cut a waterway right through Panama, and then would shorten the length of the trip, similar to what we saw with the Suez Canal. Um, and just kind of as a fun thing, because I'm into it, I would love myself to see the Panama Canal. I hear Panama is beautiful. And they have this really interesting system where it's almost like little pools. And they fill one pool up with water, and then they open up one side, and then the ship will rush forwards, and then it'll move into the next river or maybe the lake, and then eventually it'll get to another canal where it'll stop. They'll fill up the canal to where it's a higher water level than the river in front of it. And they lower the back end, and the ship kind of rushes forward. It really must be a sight to see. It's one of my dreams, is to check out that Panama Canal. Um, and the U.S. will control the Panama Canal for the next 100 years. Now, the U.S. did, in fact, give control of the Panama Canal back to the country of Panama a decade ago, maybe more, but not very long ago. And now Panama Canal is run by Panama, and this is lucrative for the people of Panama. They get money for each ship that goes through. It is economically positive thing for the people of Panama to have control of that canal back. Not only did the U.S. used to make money for every ship that went through, but we also let our ships through for free. So it was kind of a double positive. Around the same time period, President Roosevelt, who was president from 1901 to 1908, the British were upset with the country of Santo Domingo, which is Haiti, which is half of the island of Hispaniola. The other half is the Dominican Republic. Okay. Haiti, by the way, is the poorest country in all of the Americas. It also is the only country in all of the Americas that had a successful slave rebellion against the French. And people suggest that there is still animosity. And one reason why Haiti stays so poor is because the Europeans are still mad that the slave rebellion was successful, and they kicked the French out. But anyways, the British were trying to collect money in Haiti. Well, Roosevelt added now the Roosevelt Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, which says if you want to get money from Latin America, come see us and we'll get the money. And he does, and he goes in and he works out a deal with Haiti so that Haiti pays America and America pays Britain, and therefore Britain's not going to show up and invade Haiti. This was successful. This also is the beginning of, well, it's not the beginning. The next president, a guy by the name of William Howard Taft, yeah, our guy, he's going to pass a law similarly in Nicaragua, where he says, look, we're going to give you some money if you put a government in that we like, right? And then we'll work with the new government and we'll give you guys money so that you can be successful. Nicaragua was also home to a lot of American banana farms. So America wanted a stable Nicaragua, or certainly a government that would work with our companies, that wasn't working to stop US companies from profiting in Nicaragua, in mostly banana farms. Dole bananas, by the way. And this becomes known as dollar diplomacy. This idea that, look, we're going to give you financial help if you guys do what's right for our businesses and you work with us, right? You work with us, we'll give you money, we'll all stay happy here. And this does benefit the upper echelon of Nicaraguans and of any country that takes American financial help and agrees to work with us. But it oftentimes makes the poor people of those countries even poorer. Because if you think about it, in the case of Nicaragua, those banana farms, which were bought by the American company, those were traditional lands for peasants, for poor people in Central America. They used that land to live on, to sustain life, to farm for themselves, to take care of their lives. And all of a sudden, it got taken away by the rich country over there. And the government got paid for allowing the rich country to take that land, but the poor people who lived on that land got hurt. Um, and then the U.S. gets this arrangement with many Latin American countries in the 1910s. And if things aren't working out well, sometimes the U.S. sends in their military. And what we're finding here is that the U.S. is getting its fingers in Latin America's business, in Latin America's pocketbook. Um, and this will be the case all the way through the 1900s and arguably into today's world. The US is still very influential in Latin America. Some Latin American countries are not especially happy about that.